did you lose your voice when you feel like you have so much to say? I mean, you have no voice. No one considers your feelings. You're keeping up appearances because you live above your means. You try to be perfect. You engage in negative self-talk. When you have no voice, it's a matter of lack of self-confidence because you feel as if you don't have the right to stick up for yourself or be assertive or make certain demands with people who are in your life. It doesn't always come from abuse or neglect because it's internal. Your silence is from within. Keep watching this video and I'm going to explain to you exactly why you have lost your self-confidence and you have diminished your self-worth. It's your emotions that have stripped your voice and taken your ability to be the person you used to be or the person that you want to be. I'll show you exactly what to do to reel in your emotions so that you can get your voice back, so you can empower yourself to do what you've always wanted to do. So listen, I used to study opera, and that's what I did when I first went to college. And before we would begin to rehearse or sing or do anything, we would do vocal exercises. The purpose for the vocal exercises is to make sure that you could sing in your best voice, and it's also to protect your voice or to mitigate it from any further damage. And then, when you are a singing professional, you do that. You protect your voice, your instrument, the whole time. So when you lose your voice, you are forced to stay quiet until your voice heals. You don't just stay quiet though. You stay quiet, you do treatments, and you take measures to heal or mitigate the damage, like I said. So the cat has your tongue because you damaged your internal voice. You still have to do some things to protect your internal voice. But there are things that you do that damage it. So let me just tell you what you're doing that's damaging. You are comparing yourself to other people. We've been in this social media thing for so long. You don't have to be misled into thinking that what you see online is true and accurate because it isn't. So there is no need to compare yourself to the people you see online, because if you know people and how they show up online and you know them in person, oftentimes you're like, yeah, I've seen you and that ain't how you really act. So if that's true for people, then that's true for other people as well. The only person you should be in competition with is yourself. But first, you have to speak up so that you know what it is that you want to do and how well you want to compete. So, one of the things you do that damages your voice is that you are trying for perfection, and perfection isn't real. You have to have the perfect outfit, or you only want to shop at the right grocery stores, or you want to pretend that you only buy clothes or do things in a certain way. Okay, that's fine if that's making you feel better. Then you're obsessed with cleaning your house. Like you are scrubbing everything. Everything has to be perfect, like a museum. Listen, honey, nobody lives that way. I know I don't. My house is well lived in. And that's because I allow the freedom in my house for self-expression, self-awareness. So if I know that I don't feel like scrubbing any baseboards and cleaning out the refrigerator at all the time, I know that nobody else in my house does too. So we have to give each other latitude. And if there's something that needs to be done and it's causing you stress to do it, then you need to hire somebody to do it. And we'll talk about some of that when it talks about preparing for your environment. So the other thing that people do who have really lost their voice, but they're really screaming to bring themselves up to par, is that they brag about paying their bills on time. Not in a way where you have achieved a certain goal, but in a way to show that I am doing something. Because you feel inadequate when you don't have a voice, when you're not able to say how you feel at the time you feel it, or make certain moves in a way that you want to. And this could just be preconceived or conceived by you ideas that are limiting you. Then there are certain ways that you behave that show other people that you have a lack of self-confidence at the moment or a lack of self-worth. And I'm talking about people who are emotionally intelligent, who can identify and are aware of other people's emotions. So, I mean, paying all your bills is great, but why are you telling me that? Anyway, there is no way that perfection will allow you to be the perfect mom or the perfect wife. Take it from me, that just doesn't happen. We all have bumps along the road, but if we are managing our emotions, if we are understanding what our triggers are, we can handle those bumps in the road. And these most precious relationships, our relationship with our children and our relationship with our spouse, we protect them, we grow them, we build them, we nurture them because we love them. And so perfection isn't the way to do it, okay? You have a secret shame when you're trying to be perfect that doesn't allow you to ask for help. And just like I was saying with the clean house, it's one thing to have a clean house. Everyone should take pride in their environment. But if it is causing you stress, if it's helping you to lose your voice because you have this imaginary high standard that everybody is meeting and they aren't, then you need to either get help, support from your community, or you might have to hire someone to help you. So you would work that out and it would depend on the situation. And another thing that's taking your voice away is you trying to keep up appearances. You know, you want to drive the best car, live in the right neighborhood, send your kids to the right school. Like I said, shop at the right market. You only get this brand of skin care or this brand of soap. Hey, if that works for you, it works for you. But why are you trying to keep up with somebody else? Somebody who you're looking at across the way. You don't know how they got there, what they are doing to maintain. You need to work within your budget, within your means, within your lifestyle, so that you can be happy. Straining your budget to buy things to appear to have money, that's not good. You should, instead of, robbing Peter to pay Paul for appearances, build your ambition to actually make a plan to earn more money, create more money. That's what you should be doing, while instead of spending your money on things that you really can't afford. You can only keep up appearances for so long until you reach failure. You can only fake it till you make it if you're trying to really make it. Like if you're just faking it for faking sake, that's funny. If you're faking it for fake sake, then it's going to fail at some point. You're not going to be able to keep it up for long. So failure leads to feeling inadequate. If your only experiences of late are failure after failure after failure after failure, and you're not working on finding out what's causing the failure or what dynamic within your emotions or within your behavior is causing these failures, then you are going to feel inadequate. You're going to blame yourself for something that you can change. Okay. And you know what? It damages your relationships. When you're inadequate, you don't show up with your friends as yourself. You're trying to meet this imaginary standard that you think everybody has for you. Well, why are you letting somebody else set your standard? So you talk too much about your plans when you feel inadequate with your friends because you're trying to get up there. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to write a book. And then after I write a book, then I'm going to go back to school. And then I might do a podcast. Listen, I've been that person. I have been that person that felt inadequate, and I'm giving everybody that I hold valuable in my life the list of every plan that I have. And they're probably looking at me like, girl, you're good just how you are. We cool, because they are going through things too. So show up as yourself. And the way that you do that is really make a plan to change some of the dynamics in your life, because otherwise you can become isolated. You can shut yourself off from your friends and from the people who care about you because you might feel embarrassed. And when you don't show up with your friends, a lot of the inadequacy comes from you not being able to do the things that you think you should be doing because you see other people doing them, like going on trips. Like there was a time where I couldn't even imagine leaving the state. It was either because of responsibility or because of my work schedule or because I really didn't have the funds to do it at the time. And so I would feel inadequate. And to hear somebody, oh, I'm going here, and the next month I'm going there, I would feel some kind of way. Not jealousy, but it really put the fire in me to make me want to do things so I could change that dynamic in my life. Because most of the times, if you're inadequate and you're broke, you don't see how you can do it. It does take a plan. And then at work, if this is the worst place to feel inadequate, you're at work and then you explain too much to make yourself seem worthy of this paycheck that probably isn't what you really deserve. And that's just the nature of working in corporate America. They are going to try to pay you as little as they can to get you to do as much work as possible. That's why there's negotiations, right? When you apply for a job, because there's room for you to get more, but they only gonna pay you what you will allow them to pay you. Anyway, in order for you to hold on to that job, you have to perform. You can't just go there and not do anything. So when you're feeling inadequate or you're feeling like you've lost your voice, it may be in another area of your life, but it also translates into your behavior at work. You start to explain too much stuff that's not necessary, just so you can feel like you are doing what you're supposed to do. This is one reason why I've left corporate America. I could not conform. And that's just how I am. I just couldn't conform to the idea that I have to do over and above what it requires to get the job done just to keep the job. And I'm not saying that I didn't do my very best or I didn't work well. What I'm saying is there was an expectation for what I call either schmoozing, butt kissing, having a certain personality. I wasn't doing that. So I felt inadequate at a time. And so that inadequacy could lead to a loss of interest in doing the job altogether. So your performance suffers. So when you don't have a voice, you have to work that out. Because if your performance suffers, then you're at risk for even more things to happen in your life out of your control, which is you could lose your job. So you put your desires on the back burner or don't explore them at all, that's going to keep you in your silence because you need to figure out what's going to make you happy and how to get there. And then change your language because right now, if you have lost your voice, you're not speaking outwardly, but your internal language is damaged. Your internal language is like cursing because you have negative self talk. And then, sometimes it does feel outwardly because I can tell when someone has lost their voice or they are having low self esteem or low self worth. It's because when you ask them how they're doing, the first thing they say is, "Oh, I'm stressed out." Or they give you the list of all the stuff that they've done. Like, I went to the grocery store today, I did this, I did this, I did this. That makes them feel better. Or they talk about they're tired or they're sleepy, as though to seem like they're really engaging in what's going to happen in their life when they've really lost their voice and are seeking some way to get better. Okay. So a lot of times you feel as if you can't do more than what you're doing. So you talk yourself out of a goal or desire. Like, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money to do that. And then that's where hopelessness comes in, especially when you don't see anyone around you doing anything different or new. You have to seek out a person or a process that's going to allow you to think bigger and better and really want to work toward bigger and better because now you can see that it's available to you. Because if someone else is doing it, you can too. But when you have hopelessness, you become selfish. They say, how can somebody be selfish and hopeless? How does that even go together? Because you become hypersensitive. You feel as if everyone is focused on you and everything is everyone else's fault. And that's not the truth. You get easily offended, and then that impacts your behavior, right? So I created the self gut check to help you get through that process where you can actually take stock of where you are emotionally, seeing if this is a trigger, why is it a trigger, what should you do with this trigger, and how to address it as an issue for you. Because, your emotions, addressed or unaddressed, impact your thinking. Things either become normal for you, they become acceptable, moral, or something that you should do. You think about things in a different way based on your emotions. And then that thinking leads to a behavior. So if you think, that, lying on an exam or lying on a application or a resume, if that's cool, you might think that's cool to get your job. That's the thinking, because you're in a certain emotional state. Like, you want another job, you want to get out of that other one that's treating you bad, or you want to make more money, so you're going to embellish. Well, I mean, that's, people do that, I get it. But what I'm saying is that behavior was spurred on because you had an emotional trigger that led to bad thinking. Anyway, emotions, thinking, behavior, and then to environment. Your behavior creates the environment that you're in. So whatever environment you're in right now, whether you're happy where you are, you just want to get better, whether you are ready to leave where you are, you need to do something right now, whatever the situation you're in is because of the behavior that you've done previously to set up this environment. And you might not even know you were doing it. But misery loves company. So one behavior that you need to not do is gossip and then tell everyone your issues. You know why? Because those same people you gossip with, you sharing your issues, you're giving them fodder to gossip, more gossip. And then don't entertain other people's problems. If you can't solve their problem and if you're not directly involved, then don't be, especially when you are not in a place where you are emotionally able to help someone. Okay? Don't be a people pleaser, because that leads you down another road. And it's one that I cover in my book, along with the BLING process and the self gut check that I talked about earlier in this video. You go to my website, davinadandridge.com, purchase my book, Brains and Baubles, Do What Works for you from my website, where I explain the BLING concept, the self gut check. I tell you about me and some of the ways that I have used emotional intelligence to bring my life and to the place where it is now and address some triggers that I've had in my life. I show you how to shake loose preconceived emotional and financial restraints that prevent you from chasing achievable happiness. So now back to our talk. Accepting abuse is another way that you lose your voice. You allow yourself, because of your thinking, to accept poor behavior in relationships, not just love relationships, but friend relationships. You stay in relationships that don't serve you. In the long run, you're responsible for your happiness, not anyone else. So you're going to have to make changes if you want a new environment. So staying in relationships that don't serve you and staying in work environments that are toxic, that ruin your emotions, they don't fulfill you, and they don't fulfill you monetarily either. And you don't have ambition because it drains you and sucks all of the energy out of you. You need to leave there. You need to make another plan. Start with a plan, then make a transition. And then the thing that you need to do first is to develop your future self. You have control. Like I said, the behaviors that you did in the past got you where you are now. Why don't you change your behaviors today so that you can get where you want to be? You feel like you don't have time to explore your future self, but I tell you, you better make time, because if you don't do it, who's going to do it for you? Because, if you feel like you're all over the place, there's a reason for that. You have to get centered. Okay. You have to develop a relationship with God so that you can understand who you are, what the possibilities are, and what power you have for forgiveness and for gratefulness. So if you're feeling hopeless, you feel like you're all over the place and there's nothing you can do about it, you're hopeless. So then change that hopelessness, change the hopelessness. Develop your relationship with God, because that's where the true wisdom comes from. Not from your friends, not from people who may have success in their lives in a particular area, but keep in mind, if they aren't doing what you're doing, then they aren't the person you get that advice from. You want to get advice from a person who's gotten the results that you're looking for. And that's who you should be seeking out for wisdom and for advice. You don't need other people to validate your dreams and your goals. That is what comes from God. And, with your relationship with God, He fills those gaps. So if you feel like you're inadequate because you didn't grow up with a dad in your life, Listen, that happens to a lot of people. And once we get to a certain point, we can't rely on that as the reason why we don't move forward or change some of the aspects of our lives. We have to address it. First, address it with God. He can fill those gaps where you think you missed something. God, God can fill it in, and He already has a plan for you. You just got to keep developing that relationship because it builds your self-confidence and it builds your worth. You will become what God will help you vocalize. You'll be able to say what God has placed on your heart. So, the BLING process for emotional intelligence will allow you to tell people who you are. You just got to take the steps so that you'll be able to become that person that you want to be. And you can be honest with yourself, and you can allow yourself to be assertive and set boundaries, because regaining your voice starts with self-awareness. So if you feel like you don't have a developed skill to push your dreams forward, then you better do something different. All right, I can help you do that thing different. Again, go to my website, davinadandridge.com, and you're sure to get tools that can help you. So start becoming the person that you want to be today. Hit the subscribe button below so you won't miss out on more sophisticated tips to help you manage your emotions so you can become the person to do the thing that you've always wanted to do.